Marcus stood by the large window in his grand house, looking out at the busy street below. His hands were behind his back, and his face showed no feeling. People walked by his house every day, looking up at it with wonder. It was the biggest house in the town, with white stone walls and golden decorations. Everyone knew Marcus was the richest merchant in the area. But today, Marcus was not thinking about his money or his business. He was thinking about his daughter Elena, and his thoughts were not kind ones. Elena sat in the kitchen helping the cook prepare the evening meal. She was 22 years old with soft brown hair and gentle brown eyes. Her mother had died 5 years ago, and since then, Elena had tried hard to make her father happy. But nothing she did ever seemed to work. "Miss Elena, you should rest," said Martha, the old cook who had worked for the family for many years. "You have been helping me all day." Elena smiled at Martha. "I like helping you. It makes me feel useful." Martha looked at Elena with sad eyes. She remembered when Elena was a little girl, running through the house and laughing with her mother. Those happy days seemed very far away now. In his study, Marcus was meeting with a man named Thomas. Thomas was thin and wore expensive clothes, but his eyes were cold and mean. "Your daughter is becoming a problem, Marcus," Thomas said. "People in town talk about her. They say she is too big, too quiet, too strange. This is bad for your business reputation." Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. "What do you think I should do?" "She is my daughter." "Marriage," Thomas said simply. "Find someone who will take her away from here, someone who does not care about appearances." Marcus thought about this. He had tried to find Elena a husband before, but the young men from good families were not interested. They wanted pretty, thin wives who could help their social standing. Elena was kind and smart, but she was not what these men wanted. "I know someone," Thomas continued. "A man named Garrett who lives in the mountains. He owes you money from a business deal that went wrong. Instead of paying you back with gold, he could take your daughter as his wife." Marcus felt sick thinking about this, but he also felt desperate. Every day Elena reminded him of his dead wife. Every day he saw people looking at his daughter and then looking at him with questions in their eyes. He wanted these problems to go away. That evening, Elena sat in her room, reading a book about plants and flowers. She loved learning about nature, but she had to hide her books because her father said such interests were not proper for a young lady. There was a knock on her door. "Come in," she said softly. Marcus entered the room. He looked uncomfortable and would not meet her eyes. "Elena, we need to talk," he said. Elena closed her book and gave her father all her attention. She always hoped that maybe this time he would speak to her with kindness. "I have found you a husband," Marcus said quickly, like he wanted to get the words out fast. Elena felt her heart start beating faster. "A husband? Who?" "His name is Garrett. He lives in the mountains, about 2 days' travel from here." Elena waited for her father to tell her more about this man, but Marcus said nothing. "Else, what is he like?" Elena asked. "Is he kind? What does he do for work?" Marcus looked out the window. "He is a mountain man. He lives alone. You will go to him next week." Elena felt cold fear in her stomach. "Father, I do not understand. Why are you doing this so quickly? Can I meet him first?" Marcus finally looked at his daughter, but his eyes were hard. "This is not a discussion, Elena. This is what will happen. You will marry this man and go live with him. It is already decided." Elena felt tears start to form in her eyes. "Have I done something wrong? Are you angry with me?" For a moment, Marcus's face seemed to soften. He looked at Elena and remembered her as a little girl, sitting on his lap and asking him to tell her stories. But then he remembered Thomas's words about his reputation and his face became hard again. "You are my daughter and you will do as I say," Marcus said. That is the end of this conversation. After Marcus left, Elena sat on her bed and cried. She did not understand why her father was so cold to her. After her mother died, Elena had tried to be the perfect daughter. She helped with the house. She was polite to his business guests. She never asked for expensive things. but nothing she did made him love her. The next morning, Elena went to the market with Martha to buy food for the house. As they walked through the busy streets, Elena noticed people looking at her and whispering. She heard words like "poor girl" and "what a shame" and "her father must be desperate." "Do not listen to them," Martha said quietly. "They do not know you like I do." But Elena did listen, and each word hurt her heart. When they returned home, Elena found her father in his study with several men she did not know. They were looking at papers and talking about money. "Ah, Elena," Marcus said when he saw her. "Come here." Elena walked over to her father, feeling nervous. "These men are here to discuss your marriage contract," Marcus said. "Everything is settled. You will leave for the mountains in 3 days." One of the men looked at Elena with unfriendly eyes. "The mountain man is getting a good deal," he said with a mean laugh. "He does not have to pay his debt, and he gets a wife too." Elena felt her face turn red with shame. She realized that her father was not finding her a husband because he loved her. He was trading her like a piece of property to settle a business. That night, Elena could not sleep. She walked to her mother's old room, which had been closed since she died. Elena opened the door quietly and went inside. Everything was still the same. Her mother's clothes, her books, her jewelry. Elena sat on her mother's bed and picked up a small painting of the family from when Elena was young. In the picture, Marcus was smiling and holding Elena, and her mother was laughing. They looked so happy. "Mama," Elena whispered to the picture, "I do not know what to do. Papa does not love me anymore. He is sending me away to a stranger in the mountains. I am so afraid." Elena cried until she had no more tears left. Then she made a decision. She could not change what her father was doing, but she could try to be brave. Maybe this mountain man would be kind to her. Maybe she could find some happiness even if it was far away from everything she knew. The next 3 days passed quickly. Elena packed her few belongings in a small bag. Martha cried when she said goodbye, and she gave Elena a packet of seeds for a garden. "Plants will grow anywhere if you take care of them," Martha said. "Remember that." On the morning Elena was supposed to leave, Marcus came to her room one last time. For a moment he looked like he wanted to say something kind, but instead, he just handed her a small bag of money. "This should help you start your new life," he said. Elena took the money, but what she really wanted was for her father to hug her and tell her he loved her. Instead, Marcus turned and walked away without looking back. As Elena climbed into the wagon that would take her to the mountains, she looked back at the house where she had lived her whole life. Her father was standing at his window, watching her leave. For just a moment she thought she saw sadness in his face. But then he turned away, and Elena knew she would probably never see him again. The wagon moved slowly up the mountain path. Elena sat in the back, holding tight to her small bag of things. The driver was an old man named Ben who had kind eyes but did not talk much. The road was bumpy and full of rocks, and Elena felt sick from all the shaking. "How much further?" Elena asked after many hours of travel. Ben looked back at her. "We will stop at an inn tonight. Tomorrow morning, we reach the mountain man's house." Elena felt her stomach turn with fear. She had been trying not to think about what would happen when she met Garrett, but now they were almost there. The inn was small and dirty. Elena got a tiny room with a hard bed and one small window. She could not eat the food they brought her because she was too nervous. Instead, she sat by the window and looked out at the dark mountains. The mountains were bigger than anything Elena had ever seen. They reached up to the sky like giant sleeping animals. Elena had lived her whole life in the town, where everything was flat and easy to see. Here, the mountains seemed to hide secrets behind every hill and tree. That night, Elena had bad dreams. She dreamed that Garrett was a mean man who would hurt her. She dreamed that she would be trapped in the mountains forever, never seeing another friendly face. She woke up many times feeling scared and alone. The next morning, Ben woke her up early. "Time to go, miss. We have a few more hours to travel." Elena put on her best dress, which was blue with small white flowers. She wanted to look nice when she met her new husband, even though she was afraid. As they climbed higher into the mountains, the air became colder and thinner. Elena had to wrap her coat tight around her body. The trees were different here too, tall and dark green, reaching up like they were trying to touch the clouds. "Tell me about Garrett," Elena said to Ben. "Do you know him?" Ben was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Mountain folk keep to themselves. I have seen him a few times when he comes down to buy things in the village. He is very big and strong. People say he is strange." "Strange how?" Elena asked, feeling more worried. "Does not talk to people much. He lives alone, far from everyone else. Some people think he is dangerous, but I think he is just different." Elena did not know if this made her feel better or worse. After 2 more hours, Ben stopped the wagon. "We walk from here," he said. "The path is too narrow for the wagon." Elena looked ahead and saw a small dirt path that went up the side of the mountain. It looked very steep and dangerous. Ben helped Elena down from the wagon and carried her bag. They started walking up the path. Elena's legs were tired quickly because she was not used to climbing. Her nice dress got dirty from the mud, and her shoes were not good for walking on rocks. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Elena asked, when they had been walking for an hour. "Yes, miss, his house is just around the next hill." Finally, they reached the top of a small hill, and Elena saw Garrett's house for the first time. She stopped walking and stared. The house was not what she had expected. It was bigger than she thought it would be, made of dark wood and stone. There was smoke coming from the chimney, and the windows had real glass in them, not just holes in the wall. Around the house was a large garden with vegetables and flowers all growing in neat rows. But what surprised Elena most was how peaceful everything looked. She had expected to find a dirty, broken place where a wild man lived. Instead, she saw a home that someone had built with care and love. "He takes good care of his place," Ben said, sounding surprised too. As they walked closer to the house, Elena saw a man working in the garden. He was very tall and had wide shoulders, just like Ben had said. His hair was dark brown and a little long, and he had a thick beard. He was wearing simple clothes, brown pants and a white shirt. When the man heard them coming, he looked up. Elena saw his face for the first time and felt surprised. She had expected Garrett to look mean and scary, but his face was gentle. His eyes were blue like the sky, and when he saw them, he did not look angry or unfriendly. Garrett stood up slowly and walked toward them. Elena noticed that he moved carefully, like he did not want to scare her. "You must be Elena," Garrett said. His voice was deep but soft. "I am Garrett." Elena did not know what to say. She had practiced many things to say during the long trip, but now all the words were gone from her mind. "Yes," she said quietly. "I am Elena." Garrett looked at Ben and nodded. "Thank you for bringing her safely." Ben put down Elena's bag and took some money from Garrett. "She is a good girl," Ben said to Garrett. "Be kind to her." Then Ben looked at Elena. "Good luck, miss. I hope you will be happy here." After Ben left, Elena and Garrett stood looking at each other. Elena felt very small next to this big man. She wondered what he was thinking about her. "Are you hungry?" Garrett asked. It was a long trip. Elena realized she had not eaten anything since yesterday. "Yes, I am hungry." "Come inside," Garrett said. "I will make you some food." Elena followed Garrett to his house. When she walked inside, she was surprised again. The house was clean and comfortable. There was a big fireplace with a warm fire and wooden furniture that looked like someone had made it by hand. The floors were clean, and there were even some books on a shelf. "You can sit here," Garrett said, pointing to a chair near the fire. "I will cook something for you." Elena sat down and watched Garrett work in the kitchen. He moved around easily, like he was used to taking care of himself. She could smell something good cooking, bread and soup that made her stomach feel hungry. "Your house is very nice," Elena said, trying to be polite. Garrett looked at her with surprise. "You think so?" "Yes. I did not know what to expect." Garrett brought her a bowl of hot soup and some fresh bread. "Eat," he said. "You look tired." The soup was the best Elena had ever tasted. It had vegetables and meat and spices that she did not recognize. The bread was warm and soft. "This is very good," Elena said. "Did you make it yourself?" "Yes," Garrett said. "I grow most of my own food." Elena looked around the house again. "Do you live here alone?" "Yes, I have lived alone for many years." Elena felt sad thinking about this big man living by himself in the mountains. "Do you not get lonely?" Garrett was quiet for a long time. "Sometimes," he said finally, "but I'm used to it." After Elena finished eating, Garrett showed her around the house. There were 3 rooms, the main room with the kitchen and fireplace, a bedroom and a small room with more books and tools for working with wood. "Where will I sleep?" Elena asked. Garrett's face turned a little red. "You can have the bedroom. I will sleep out here by the fire." Elena felt relieved. She had been worried about what Garrett would expect from her as his wife. "Thank you," she said. "That is very kind." As the sun started to go down, Elena felt very tired. The long trip and all her worry had made her feel weak. "I think I would like to rest now," she said. "Of course," Garrett said. "Your bag is already in the bedroom." Elena went into the bedroom and closed the door. The room was simple but clean, with a nice bed and a small window that looked out at the mountains. Elena changed into her nightgown and lay down on the bed. Through the thin walls, she could hear Garrett moving around in the main room. She heard him putting wood on the fire and cleaning the dishes from their meal. All the sounds were gentle and calm. Elena had expected this day to be terrible, but it had not been as bad as she thought. Garrett seemed like a good man, even if he was quiet and different. His house was comfortable and he had been kind to her, but Elena still felt sad and scared. She missed Martha and her old room and everything that was familiar. She wondered if she would ever feel at home in this strange place, so far from everything she had ever known. As Elena fell asleep, she could hear the wind blowing through the mountain trees outside her window. It was a lonely sound, but somehow, it was also peaceful. For the first time in many days, Elena slept without bad dreams. Elena woke up when the sun was just starting to come through her window. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. She was in the mountains, in Garrett's house, far away from everything she had ever known. She could hear sounds coming from the main room. Garrett was already awake, making breakfast. Elena got dressed quickly and went out to see him. "Good morning," Garrett said when he saw her. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, thank you," Elena said. The truth was she had slept better than she had in weeks. The mountain air was clean and fresh, and the bed was more comfortable than she had expected. Garrett had made eggs and bread for breakfast. They ate together without talking much, but it was not an uncomfortable silence. Elena was starting to see that Garrett was just a quiet person, not mean or unfriendly. After breakfast, Garrett stood up. "I need to work in the garden today. You can do whatever you like." Elena did not know what to do with herself. At home, she had always helped Martha with the cooking and cleaning, but here everything was already clean and organized. "Can I help you in the garden?" Elena asked. Garrett looked surprised. "You want to help me?" "Yes. I do not know much about gardens, but I would like to learn." Garrett's face showed a small smile. It was the first time Elena had seen him really smile. "That would be good. Come on." They went outside together. The morning air was cold and fresh, and Elena could see her breath like little clouds. The mountains all around them looked beautiful in the morning light. Garrett's garden was bigger than it had looked from far away. There were rows of vegetables, carrots, beans, corn, and many other plants Elena did not recognize. There were also flowers and herbs that smelled wonderful. "This is amazing," Elena said, looking around. "You grew all of this yourself?" "Yes. The growing season is short here in the mountains, so I have to work hard to grow enough food for the winter." Garrett showed Elena how to pull weeds and water the plants. He was very patient and explained everything carefully. Elena noticed that his hands were gentle with the plants, even though they were big and strong. "How did you learn to do all this?" Elena asked as they worked. "My grandmother taught me," Garrett said. "She lived here before me. She knew everything about plants and growing things. Where is she now? She died 5 years ago. I have been alone since then. Elena felt sad for Garrett. She knew what it was like to lose someone important. As they worked, Elena started to feel more relaxed. The work was peaceful, and she liked being outside in the fresh air. In town, she had always been inside the house helping with cooking and cleaning. Here she could feel the sun on her face and hear birds singing in the trees. Elena, Garrett said after they had been working for a while. Can I ask you something? Yes. Why did your father want you to marry me? I know he does not know me, and I know I am not the kind of man most fathers want for their daughters. Elena stopped pulling weeds and looked at Garrett. She did not want to hurt his feelings, but she also did not want to lie to him. My father owed you money, she said quietly. He thought this would solve his problem. Garrett nodded slowly. I thought so. I am sorry about that. Why are you sorry? Because you did not choose to come here. You were forced to come. Elena thought about this. That is true, but maybe it will not be so bad. They worked in the garden all morning. Elena learned about different plants and how to take care of them. She was surprised to find that she was good at this work. Her hands seemed to know just how to touch the plants without hurting them. After lunch, Garrett said he needed to go into the forest to get wood for the winter. You can come with me if you want, or you can stay here and rest. I want to come with you, Elena said. She was curious about the forest around Garrett's house. They walked together into the woods behind the house. The trees were huge and old, much bigger than any trees Elena had ever seen. The forest was quiet except for the sounds of birds and small animals moving through the leaves. Garrett carried an axe and showed Elena which trees were good to cut for firewood. He only cut trees that were already dead or dying, never healthy ones. My grandmother taught me to only take what I need from the forest, Garrett explained. The forest gives us wood and food and medicine, so we must take care of it. Medicine? Elena asked. Yes, many plants in the forest can help when people are sick or hurt. Elena was very interested in this. Can you show me? Garrett looked at her with surprise again. You want to learn about plant medicine? Yes, very much. For the next hour, Garrett showed Elena different plants in the forest. He showed her which bark could help with pain, which leaves could help with stomach problems, and which berries were safe to eat. Elena listened carefully and tried to remember everything. You learn quickly, Garrett said as they walked back to the house with their person. Most people do not pay attention to these things. I have always liked learning about plants, Elena said. But at home, my father said it was not proper for a lady to know about such things. Garrett stopped walking and looked at Elena. That is foolish. Knowledge is never improper, especially knowledge that can help people. Elena felt happy hearing this. For the first time in years, someone was encouraging her interests instead of telling her they were wrong. That evening, Garrett cooked dinner while Elena watched and helped. She was learning that Garrett was a very good cook. He used herbs from his garden to make the food taste wonderful. Garrett, Elena said as they ate, can I ask you something now? Yes. Why do people in the village think you are strange? Garrett was quiet for a long time. Because I am different from them. I do not go to town very often. I do not drink in the tavern or talk about the same things they talk about. I prefer to be alone with my books and my garden. What kind of books do you read? Garrett's eyes lit up a little. Books about plants and medicine mostly. Some stories and poems too. My grandmother had many books, and I have collected more over the years. Elena felt excited. I love books too. I brought a few with me. What kind of books do you like? Stories mostly, and books about plants and nature when I could find them. They talked about books for the rest of dinner. Elena was surprised to learn that Garrett had read many of the same stories she had read. He was much more educated than she had expected. After dinner, Garrett showed Elena his books. He had more books than Elena had ever seen in one place, even more than her father's study. There were books about medicine, farming, cooking, and many stories and poems. You can read any of these whenever you want, Garrett said. Elena felt like she had found a treasure. At home, she had to hide her books and read them secretly. Here, Garrett was offering to share his whole library with her. That night, Elena went to bed feeling different than she had the night before. She was still sad about leaving home, and she still missed Martha and her old life. But she was also starting to feel something new: hope. Garrett was not the terrible mountain man she had imagined. He was kind and gentle and smart. His house was comfortable and his life seemed peaceful. Maybe Elena thought she could be happy here after all. As she lay in bed, Elena could hear Garrett moving around in the main room, probably reading by the fire. She wondered what he was thinking about her. Did he think she was stupid or useless? Did he wish her father had sent him money instead of a wife? But then Elena remembered how Garrett had smiled when she wanted to help in the garden. She remembered how patiently he had taught her about the plants in the forest. She remembered how his eyes had lit up when they talked about books. Maybe Garrett was lonely too. Maybe he was as nervous about this marriage as she was. Maybe they could help each other learn to be less alone. Elena fell asleep, thinking about the garden and the forest and all the books she could read. For the first time since leaving home, she felt like the future might hold something good for her. Outside her window, the wind moved through the mountain trees, but tonight it did not sound lonely. Tonight it sounded like the mountains were welcoming her home. 2 weeks had passed since Elena came to live with Garrett in the mountains. Every day she felt a little more at home. She had learned to help with all the work around the house and garden, and Garrett seemed happy to have her there. This morning was different, though. Elena woke up feeling sick to her stomach. She thought maybe she had eaten something bad, but as the day went on, she felt worse instead of better. "Are you feeling well?" Garrett asked when he saw Elena sitting by the fire, looking pale and tired. "I think I might be getting sick," Elena said. "My stomach hurts and I feel very weak." Garrett looked worried. "Let me feel your forehead." He put his big, gentle hand on Elena's head. His hand felt cool against her hot skin. "You have a fever," Garrett said. "Come, lie down in bed. I will take care of you." Elena was too sick to argue. She let Garrett help her to the bedroom, where she lay down on the soft bed. Garrett brought her a cup of water and told her to rest. For the next 3 days, Elena was very sick. She had a high fever and could not eat anything. Sometimes she felt so hot she wanted to throw off all her blankets, and sometimes she felt so cold she shook like a leaf in the wind. Garrett took care of her the whole time. He brought her water and tea made from herbs in his garden. He put cool cloths on her forehead when the fever was high. He sat by her bed and read to her from his books when she could not sleep. Elena had never had anyone take care of her like this before. When she was sick as a child, Martha would bring her soup, but her father never came to see her. He was always too busy with his work to worry about a sick daughter, but Garrett stayed with her every moment he could. He cooked special soups to help her feel better. He made teas from plants in the forest that helped with the fever and pain. He never seemed to get tired of taking care of her. On the 4th day, Elena's fever finally broke. She woke up feeling weak, but much better. Garrett was sitting in a chair next to her bed reading a book. "How do you feel?" he asked when he saw her eyes open. "Better," Elena said. Her voice was still weak, but she could think clearly again. "Much better." Garrett smiled, and Elena saw relief in his blue eyes. "I was worried about you." "You were?" "Yes. You were very sick. I thought—" Garrett stopped talking and looked down at his hands. "What did you think?" "I thought I might lose you," Garrett said quietly. "I know you did not choose to come here, but I have grown to care about you. I do not want you to be hurt." Elena felt something warm spread through her chest. No one had ever said they cared about her like this before. "Thank you for taking care of me," Elena said. "I do not know what I would have done without you." "You do not need to thank me. We are married now. We take care of each other." Over the next few days, Elena got stronger. Garrett made her special foods to help her get her strength back. He would not let her work in the garden until she was completely well. "I feel useless just sitting here," Elena complained on the 6th day. "You are not useless," Garrett said firmly. "You are recovering. That is important work too." While Elena was getting better, Garrett told her more stories about his grandmother and the things she had taught him about healing. "She was known all through these mountains as a healer," Garrett said. "People would travel for days to ask for her help." "What happened to her knowledge when she died?" Elena asked. "I learned some of it, but not everything. She had notebooks full of recipes for medicines and healing treatments. I still have them, but I do not understand all of it. Could you show me the notebooks?" Garrett looked at Elena carefully. "Why do you want to see them?" "Because I am interested, and because maybe I could help you understand them better." That afternoon, Garrett brought Elena a stack of old notebooks. They were written in careful handwriting, full of information about plants and how to use them for healing. Elena opened the first notebook and started to read. The writing was sometimes hard to understand, but she could see that Garrett's grandmother had been very wise about healing. "Look at this," Elena said, pointing to a page in the notebook. "This is the same tea you gave me when I had a fever, but there are other ingredients listed here that you did not use." Garrett looked at the page. "I could not remember all the ingredients," Elena kept reading. "And here, this recipe for stomach sickness. The ingredients are all plants that grow in your garden." For the rest of the day, Elena read through the notebooks while Garrett worked around the house. She found recipes for helping with pain, healing cuts and bruises, and treating many different kinds of sickness. "Garrett," Elena said that evening, "your grandmother was not just a healer. She was a very special healer. These recipes are amazing." "Do you really think so?" "Yes. And I think I could learn to make these medicines. Some of the ingredients are plants I have seen in your garden and in the forest." Garrett sat down next to Elena. "Would you want to learn? It is not easy work." "I would love to learn. More than anything." From that day on, Elena's life changed completely. Every morning, she and Garrett would work in the garden together, but now instead of just growing vegetables, they also grew special healing plants. Garrett showed Elena how to plant the seeds and take care of the plants as they grew. In the afternoons, they would go into the forest to look for wild plants that could be used for medicine. Garrett taught Elena how to find the right plants and how to pick them without hurting the forest. Elena learned quickly. She had a natural feeling for plants and seemed to understand how to work with them. Garrett was amazed at how fast she learned and how good she was at this work. "You have a gift," Garrett told her one day as they worked together making a tea for headaches. "My grandmother would have liked you very much." Elena felt proud and happy. For the first time in her life, she was doing work that felt important and meaningful. One evening, as they sat by the fire reading the old notebooks, Elena had an idea. "Garrett, do you think we could help people the way your grandmother did?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, could we make medicines and help people who are sick? There must be people in the villages who need help." Garrett was quiet for a long time. "I do not go to the villages very often. People think I am strange, remember? But if we could help sick people, maybe they would not think you are strange anymore." "Maybe," Garrett said, "but it would be dangerous. If we gave someone medicine and it did not work, or if it made them worse, people would blame us." Elena understood this, but she still felt excited about the idea. "We could start small, maybe just help 1 or 2 people and see what happens." Garrett looked at Elena's eager face and smiled. "You really want to do this, do not you?" "Yes. I feel like this is what I am supposed to be doing with my life." "All right," Garrett said. "We will try, but we will be very careful." The next morning they heard a knock on the door. Elena and Garrett looked at each other with surprise. No one ever came to visit Garrett's house. Garrett opened the door and found a young woman standing outside. She looked very worried and tired. "Please," the woman said, "I need help. My baby is very sick and nothing I do makes him better. Someone in the village said you might know about healing." Elena felt her heart start beating fast. This was their chance to help someone. Garrett looked at Elena, then back at the woman. "What is wrong with your baby?" "He has a fever and will not eat. He cries all the time. The village healer does not know what to do." Elena stepped forward. "We will try to help you. Bring your baby inside." The woman brought in a small baby who was red-faced and crying weakly. Elena looked at the baby and then at Garrett. She remembered a recipe from the notebooks for babies with fever. "I think I know what might help," Elena said quietly to Garrett. Working together, Elena and Garrett made a gentle tea from plants in their garden. They showed the woman how to give tiny amounts to her baby and how often to give it. "Come back tomorrow and tell us how he is doing," Elena said. The woman thanked them many times and left with her baby. Elena and Garrett spent the rest of the day worrying. What if their medicine did not work? What if it made the baby worse? But the next day the woman came back with her baby and the baby was much better. His fever was gone and he was eating and smiling. "You saved him," the woman said, crying with happiness. "Thank you so much." After the woman left, Elena and Garrett looked at each other with amazement. "We did it," Elena said. "We really helped someone." Garrett smiled at Elena. "You did it. You knew exactly what to do." Elena felt a happiness she had never felt before. She had found her purpose in life, and she had found it here in the mountains with Garrett. She was no longer just the daughter her father did not want. She was a healer, and she was going to help people. From that day on, Elena knew that her life had truly begun. Word spread quickly through the mountain villages about Elena and Garrett. The young mother told everyone how they had saved her baby, and soon other people started coming to their house asking for help. At first, only 1 or 2 people came each week. Elena was nervous every time, but Garrett was always there to help her. They worked together, reading the old notebooks and making medicines from the plants in their garden and forest. Elena discovered that she had a special talent for understanding what was wrong with people. When someone came to their door feeling sick, Elena could often tell what kind of medicine they needed just by looking at them and listening to their story. "How do you know these things?" Garrett asked her one day after Elena had quickly figured out what was wrong with an old man who could not sleep. "I do not know," Elena said. "It just feels right to me, like the plants are telling me what they can do." Garrett looked at Elena with wonder. "My grandmother used to say the same thing. She said plants would speak to her." As weeks turned into months, more and more people came to see Elena and Garrett. Elena's reputation as a healer grew, and people started calling her the Mountain Angel. But Elena was changing in other ways too. All the work in the garden and forest had made her body strong and healthy. The mountain air and good food had given her energy she had never had before. She no longer looked like the sad, pale girl who had left her father's house. More importantly, Elena felt confident and happy for the first time in her life. She had found work that mattered, and she was good at it. Every person she helped made her feel more sure of herself. Garrett noticed these changes in Elena, and he was proud of her. He also found himself feeling things for Elena that he had not expected when they first got married. At first, Garrett had thought of Elena as a duty, someone he needed to take care of because her father had sent her to him. But now he saw Elena as a partner and friend. He admired her kindness, her quick mind, and her gentle way with sick people. One evening, as they sat by the fire making medicines for the next day, Garrett said something that surprised Elena. "Elena, I need to tell you something." Elena looked up from the herbs she was grinding. "What is it?" "When your father first arranged our marriage, I thought it would be difficult. I thought you would be unhappy here and would want to leave." "I was unhappy at first," Elena said honestly. "I know. But now I cannot imagine my life without you here. You have made everything better." Elena felt her face grow warm. "You have made my life better too, Garrett. I never thought I could be this happy." They looked at each other across the firelight, and Elena realized that something had changed between them. They were no longer just 2 people living in the same house, because they had to. They had become real partners who cared deeply about each other. "Elena," Garrett said softly, Do you think, could you be happy staying here with me forever? Not because you have to, but because you want to? Elena's heart felt full of warm feelings. Yes, Garrett, I want to stay here with you. This feels like my real home now. Garrett smiled the biggest smile Elena had ever seen from him. I am so glad. That night, for the first time since Elena had come to the mountains, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. The next morning brought a new challenge. A man came running to their house, very upset and frightened. Please, you must help us, the man said. There is sickness in our village. Many people are very ill, and some have died. Our healer does not know what to do. Elena and Garrett looked at each other. They had helped individual people, but they had never dealt with a sickness that was affecting many people at once. What are the signs of this sickness? Elena asked. High fever, trouble breathing, and a rash on the skin, the man said. It spreads quickly from person to person. Elena thought about the notebooks. She remembered reading about sicknesses that spread quickly and were very dangerous. We will come with you, Elena said. Garrett, pack our medicines and supplies. The village was a day's walk from Garrett's house. When they arrived, Elena was shocked by what she saw. Many people were lying sick in their homes, and the healthy people were afraid to go near them. The village healer was an old woman named Sarah who looked very tired and worried. I have never seen anything like this, Sarah told Elena and Garrett. Nothing I try seems to help. Elena went from house to house, looking at the sick people and trying to understand what was making them ill. She had read about this kind of sickness in the notebooks, but she had never seen it before. I think I know what this is, Elena told Garrett privately. There are recipes in your grandmother's notebooks for this kind of spreading sickness. Are you sure? Garrett asked. If we are wrong, people could die. People are already dying, Elena said. We have to try. Elena and Garrett worked day and night, making medicines from the supplies they had brought and from plants they found near the village. They showed people how to keep the sick ones clean and comfortable. They taught families how to keep the sickness from spreading to healthy people. It was hard, frightening work. Elena had to be brave and calm even when she was scared inside. Some people got better quickly, but others got worse before they got better. For 5 days, Elena and Garrett stayed in the village working to help the sick people. Elena barely slept, going from house to check on patients and give them medicine. On the 6th day, Elena realized something wonderful. No new people were getting sick, and most of the people who had been ill were getting better. You did it, Sarah, the village healer, told Elena. You stopped the sickness. Elena felt tired but happy. We all did it, working together. When Elena and Garrett finally returned home, they were both exhausted but proud. They had saved many lives, and they had proven that they could handle big challenges. Elena, Garrett said as they sat by their own fire again. You were amazing. You saved that whole village. We saved them, Elena corrected. I could not have done it without you. But Elena knew that something important had happened in that village. She had discovered that she was not just good at helping one sick person at a time. She could be a real healer, someone who could help many people and save lives. Word about what Elena and Garrett had done in the village spread even faster than before. Soon people were coming from villages many days away, asking for their help. Elena's confidence grew with every person she helped. She learned to trust the feeling inside her that told her what medicines to use. She learned to be calm and strong, even in scary situations. Garrett watched Elena grow into her power as a healer, and he was amazed by the transformation. The quiet, sad girl who had come to his house had become a strong, confident woman who could save lives. But more than that, Elena had become the love of Garrett's life. He had never expected to fall in love with the wife her father had sent him, but he had. Elena was kind, smart, brave, and beautiful in ways that had nothing to do with how she looked. Elena felt the same way about Garrett. He had been patient and gentle with her when she was scared and homesick. He had taught her everything he knew and encouraged her to become the healer she was meant to be. He had given her a home and a purpose and love. One evening, as they worked together preparing medicines, Elena realized how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she had been an unwanted daughter living in her father's house, feeling useless and unloved. Now she was a respected healer with important work to do. People traveled for days just to ask for her help. More importantly, she had found love with Garrett. Not the kind of love she had read about in romantic stories, but a deep, true love built on respect and partnership and shared work. "Garrett," Elena said as they finished their work for the day, "do you think your grandmother would be proud of what we are doing?" Garrett looked at Elena with love in his eyes. "I think she would be amazed. You have become everything she was, and more." Elena smiled and took Garrett's hand. She was no longer the girl her father had traded away to solve his problems. She was Elena, the healer, and she was exactly where she belonged. 1 year had passed since Elena came to live in the mountains with Garrett. She was now known throughout the region as the Mountain Healer, and people came from far away to seek her help. Elena had helped hundreds of sick people, and her reputation had spread to towns and cities many days' travel away. But while Elena was becoming famous for her healing abilities, something terrible was happening in the city where her father Marcus lived. Marcus had been feeling sick for several weeks. At first, he thought it was just tiredness from working too hard. He was still the richest merchant in town, but his business had not been going well lately. He had lost money on several deals, and he was always worried and stressed. The sickness started with stomach pain and feeling very tired. Marcus thought it would go away by itself, but instead it got worse. Soon he could barely eat anything without feeling sick, and he was losing weight quickly. Marcus called for the best doctor in the city, a man named Dr. Peterson, who charged a lot of money for his services. Dr. Peterson examined Marcus carefully and gave him many different medicines, but nothing helped. In fact, Marcus seemed to get worse every day. "I do not understand this illness," Dr. Peterson told Marcus after 2 weeks of treatment. "I have never seen anything like it before." Marcus was scared. He had always been healthy and strong, and he was not used to being sick. "There must be something you can do," Marcus said. "Money is no problem. I will pay anything to get better." Dr. Peterson tried more treatments and brought in other doctors to help, but nothing worked. Marcus continued to get weaker and sicker. After a month of being ill, Marcus was so weak he could barely get out of bed. He had lost so much weight that his clothes hung loose on his body. His skin was pale and gray, and his eyes looked tired and frightened. Thomas, Marcus's business partner, came to visit him one day. Thomas was worried because if Marcus died, it would be bad for their business. "You need to find someone else who can help you," Thomas told Marcus. "The city doctors do not know what to do." "Who else is there?" Marcus asked weakly. "Dr. Peterson is the best doctor in the region." Thomas was quiet for a moment. "I have heard stories about a healer who lives in the mountains. People say she can cure illnesses that no one else can cure." Marcus felt a little hope for the first time in weeks. "What kind of healer?" "They call her the Mountain Angel. She lives far away in the mountains with her husband. People travel for days to see her, and they say she has amazing powers." Marcus was so desperate that he was willing to try anything. "How far away?" "At least 5 days' travel by wagon, maybe more because you are so weak." Marcus thought about this. He was very sick, and the trip would be dangerous for him. But he was also very scared of dying, and the city doctors had given up on helping him. "Arrange it," Marcus said. "I will go to see this mountain healer." Thomas was surprised. "Are you sure? The trip will be very hard for you." "I am sure. I would rather die trying to get help than die here doing nothing." The next day, Thomas arranged for a comfortable wagon with soft cushions for Marcus to lie on during the long trip. He hired 2 strong men to help take care of Marcus during the journey. The trip was even harder than Marcus had expected. Every bump in the road made him feel worse, and he had to stop many times to rest. He could only eat tiny amounts of food, and he felt weak and dizzy most of the time. But Marcus was determined to reach the mountain healer. He had heard that she could cure people that no one else could help, and he was desperate to get better. On the 4th day of travel, they started. climbing into the mountains. The air was thinner here and it was harder for Marcus to breathe. He began to wonder if he would die before he could reach the healer. How much further? Marcus asked one of the men helping him. The villagers say we should reach her house by tomorrow afternoon if you can keep traveling. That night they stopped at a small inn in a mountain village. The innkeeper looked at Marcus with concern. You are very sick, sir. Are you sure you should be traveling? I am going to see the mountain angel, Marcus said. I have heard she can help people like me. The innkeeper's face changed. Ah, you are going to see Elena the healer. Yes, she is very gifted. She has helped many people from our village. Elena? Marcus felt confused. That was his daughter's name, but it must be a coincidence. His daughter was married to a mountain man, not working as a healer. Yes, Elena. She lives with her husband Garrett about half a day's travel from here. She is the most gifted healer anyone has ever seen. Marcus felt strange hearing this, but he was too sick to think clearly about it. The next morning they continued traveling up into the mountains. The path became narrow and difficult, and Marcus felt sicker than ever. He began to think he might die before reaching the healer. Finally, late in the afternoon, they reached a small house built into the side of the mountain. There was a beautiful garden around the house, and the place looked peaceful and welcoming. This must be it, said one of the men helping Marcus. They helped Marcus out of the wagon and supported him as he walked slowly toward the house. Marcus was so weak he could barely stand up. A tall, strong man with a beard came out of the house when he heard the wagon arrive. Behind him came a woman with long brown hair wearing a simple dress. Marcus looked at the woman and felt confused. She looked familiar, but he could not think clearly because he was so sick. We have come to see the healer, said one of Marcus's helpers. This man is very ill and the doctors in the city could not help him. The woman stepped forward and looked at Marcus with kind, intelligent eyes. I am Elena. Please bring him inside so I can examine him. When Marcus heard the name Elena, he tried to look more carefully at the woman's face, but his vision was blurry from being so sick and he could not focus properly. They helped Marcus into the house and laid him down on a comfortable bed. Elena brought him water and spoke to him gently. Can you tell me about your illness? Elena asked. When did it start, and what are your symptoms? Marcus was surprised by how confident and knowledgeable this young woman sounded. She asked him many questions about his sickness, and her questions were better than the ones the expensive city doctors had asked. Elena examined Marcus carefully, feeling his forehead and checking his pulse. She looked at his eyes and skin, and she asked him to describe exactly how he felt. I think I know what is wrong with you, Elena said after her examination. You have a sickness that comes from too much worry and stress, combined with eating the wrong foods for too long. Your body has become poisoned and weak. Marcus was amazed. Elena had understood his illness better in a few minutes than Dr. Peterson had in a month. Can you help me? Marcus asked weakly. Yes, I believe I can, but it will take time and you will need to follow my treatment exactly. Elena and Garrett prepared a place for Marcus to stay while he recovered. Elena made special teas and medicines from plants in her garden, and she put Marcus on a strict diet of simple, healthy foods. For the first few days, Marcus felt even worse as the medicines worked to clean the poison from his body. But Elena stayed with him, encouraging him and adjusting his treatment as needed. Marcus had never received such careful personal attention from a healer before. Elena seemed to care more about making him well than about how much money he would pay her. Slowly, very slowly, Marcus began to feel a little better. His stomach pain decreased, and he was able to eat small amounts of food without feeling sick, but Marcus still had not realized who Elena really was. He was too focused on his illness to think clearly about anything else, and Elena, though she had recognized her father immediately, had chosen not to reveal who she was until he was stronger and could handle the shock. Elena wondered what her father would think when he learned that the famous mountain angel, who was saving his life, was the same daughter he had traded away like a piece of property just 1 year ago. After 1 week of Elena's treatment, Marcus was feeling much better. His stomach pain was almost gone. He could eat regular meals again, and his strength was slowly returning. The gray color had left his skin, and his eyes were clearer and more alert. Elena had been taking care of him every day, bringing him medicines and healthy food, and checking on how he was feeling. But she had not yet told him who she was. She was waiting for the right moment. Marcus was amazed by Elena's healing abilities. She seemed to know exactly what his body needed to get better. More than that, she was kind and patient with him in a way that reminded him of someone, though he could not remember who. "You have saved my life," Marcus told Elena as she brought him his morning tea. "The doctors in the city had given up on me, but you knew exactly what to do." Elena smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "I am glad I could help you." "How did you learn to heal like this? You seem so young to have such knowledge." Elena sat down in the chair next to Marcus's bed. "My husband taught me much of what I know. His grandmother was a great healer who lived in these mountains, but I think some of the ability comes from inside me." Marcus nodded. "I can see that you have a gift. You are not like other healers I have met. Tell me about your life," Elena said. "What do you do when you are not sick?" Marcus began to talk about his business and his life in the city. As he talked, Elena listened carefully, hearing about her father's world without her in it. "I am a merchant," Marcus said. "I have been very successful, but lately my business has not been going well. I think the worry about money is part of what made me sick." "Do you have a family?" Elena asked quietly. Marcus's face became sad. "I had a wife, but she died 5 years ago, and I had a daughter, but she's gone now too." "Gone? What happened to her?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. "I arranged for her to marry a man and go live far away. I thought it was best for everyone." "Did you miss her after she left?" Marcus looked surprised by the question. "Miss her? I suppose I did sometimes, but it was necessary." Elena felt anger and sadness hearing her father talk about her this way, but she kept her voice calm. "Why was it necessary? She was not the kind of daughter that helped my reputation. People in town talked about her, and it was bad for my business." Elena took a deep breath. What was wrong with her that people talked? Marcus looked uncomfortable. She was not pretty or graceful like other merchants' daughters. She was too big, too quiet, too interested in things that were not proper for a lady. Elena felt tears starting in her eyes, but she forced herself to stay calm. What kinds of things was she interested in? Books, plants, nature, things that were not useful for finding a good husband. Elena could not stay quiet anymore. "And you think those interests made her worthless?" Marcus was surprised by the emotion in Elena's voice. "No, not worthless. Just difficult to marry off. So you traded her away to solve a business problem." Marcus started to feel uncomfortable. "I found her a husband. That is what fathers do for their daughters." Elena stood up and walked to the window. "What if I told you that the daughter you traded away became something amazing? What if she found her true purpose in life and became someone who helps people and saves lives? That would be good, I suppose, but unlikely." Elena turned around and looked directly at her father. "Why unlikely?" "Because she was just an ordinary girl with no special talents." Elena felt her heart breaking hearing these words. Even now, after everything she had accomplished, her father still could not see any value in her. "Marcus," Elena said, her voice shaking a little. Look at me. Look at me carefully." Marcus looked at Elena more closely than he had before. Something about her voice made him pay attention. "Do I remind you of anyone?" Elena asked. Marcus stared at Elena's face. There was something familiar about her brown eyes and the shape of her face. Suddenly, his heart started beating faster. "No," Marcus whispered. "It cannot be." "Look at me, father." Marcus felt like he could not breathe. "Elena? My Elena?" "Yes, father, I am your daughter." Marcus tried to sit up in bed, his eyes wide with shock. "But how? You are supposed to be married to a mountain man. You are supposed to be living as his wife, not working as a healer. I am married to Garrett. He is the mountain man you traded me to. But I am also a healer. I am both. Marcus looked around the room with new eyes. This is his house? The mountain man's house? Yes. And I am happy here, Father. Happier than I ever was in your house. Marcus felt confused and ashamed. But you are famous. People travel for days to see you. How did this happen? Elena sat back down and looked at her father with a mixture of love and sadness. It happened because Garrett saw something in me that you never saw. He encouraged me to learn about plants and healing. He believed I had value and abilities that were worth developing. I do not understand. When I came here, I was broken and sad because you made me feel worthless. But Garrett was kind to me. He taught me about his grandmother's healing knowledge, and I discovered that I had a natural gift for helping sick people. Marcus remembered all the times Elena had tried to interest him in plants and nature, and how he had told her those things were not proper for a lady. You mean you always had this ability? Yes, Father. I tried to show you my interests many times, but you always told me they were wrong. Marcus felt a pain in his chest that had nothing to do with his illness. Oh, Elena, what have I done? You traded away your daughter to solve a business debt, and by accident you sent me to the one place where I could become who I was meant to be. Marcus began to cry, something he had not done since his wife died. I am so sorry, Elena. I was so wrong about you. I was so wrong about everything. Elena watched her father cry and felt her own tears starting. Despite everything he had done to hurt her, she still loved him. Father, why could you not see who I really was? Marcus wiped his eyes and looked at his daughter. Because I was selfish and foolish. I only cared about my business and my reputation. I could not see past my own narrow ideas about what a daughter should be. And now? What do you see now? Marcus looked at Elena with new eyes. He saw a confident, intelligent woman who had found her calling in life. He saw someone who was respected and loved by everyone who knew her. He saw someone who had saved his life. I see an amazing woman who has become everything I never let her become when she lived with me. Elena felt some of the old pain in her heart begin to heal. I needed to hear you say that. Can you ever forgive me for being such a terrible father? Elena was quiet for a long time. I can forgive you, Father. But I cannot forget what it felt like to be unwanted and unloved. I did love you, Elena. I just did not know how to show it. You loved the idea of having a daughter, but you did not love who I actually was. Marcus knew she was right. What can I do to make up for what I did to you? Elena looked at her father thoughtfully. You can start by understanding that what you thought were my weaknesses were actually my greatest strengths. You can understand that sending me away was the best thing you ever did for me, even though you meant it as punishment. I do understand that now. You have become something wonderful. Garrett came into the room having heard voices. He looked concerned when he saw that both Elena and Marcus had been crying. Is everything all right? Garrett asked. Elena looked at her husband with love. Garrett, I want you to meet my father. Garrett's eyes widened with surprise. He had known this day might come, but he had not expected it to happen like this. Your father? Garrett looked at Marcus with new understanding. You are Marcus the merchant? Yes, Marcus said. And you are the mountain man I traded my daughter to. Marcus looked at Garrett carefully for the first time. He saw a strong, intelligent man who clearly loved Elena very much. He saw someone who had given Elena the life she deserved. I owe you an apology as well, Marcus said to Garrett. I forced this marriage on both of you without caring about what either of you wanted. Garrett sat down next to Elena and took her hand. You gave me the greatest gift of my life, Garrett said. You gave me Elena. Marcus saw the love between Elena and Garrett and realized that his daughter had found something with this man that she never could have found with the wealthy city men he had wanted her to marry. I see that you love each other, Marcus said. Yes, Elena said. More than I ever thought possible. Marcus felt happy and sad at the same time. Happy that his daughter had found love and purpose, but sad that he had missed seeing her become the person she was meant to be. "Elena," Marcus said, "I know I do not deserve it, but would you allow me to be part of your life again? Not as the father who controls you, but as someone who wants to know and love the woman you have become." Elena looked at Garrett, who squeezed her hand encouragingly. "Yes, father," Elena said. "You can be part of my life, but it will be here, in my home, on my terms." "I understand," Marcus said. "I would be honored to know you as you really are." For the first time in years, Elena felt like she might have a real father again. Marcus stayed in the mountains for 2 more weeks while he finished recovering from his illness. During this time, he watched Elena work as a healer and saw the respect and love that everyone had for her. Every day, people came to the house asking for Elena's help. Marcus saw his daughter treat sick children, help women with difficult pregnancies, and cure men with injuries from working in the mines. Elena handled each case with confidence and skill that amazed him. "I cannot believe this is the same girl who used to hide in her room reading books," Marcus said to Garrett one evening as they watched Elena prepare medicines. "She was always this person inside," Garrett replied. "She just needed someone to believe in her and give her the chance to grow." Marcus felt ashamed every time he thought about how he had treated Elena. He had been so focused on what other people thought that he had never seen his daughter's true gifts. During his stay, Marcus also got to know Garrett better. He learned that Garrett was not the wild, uneducated mountain man he had imagined. Garrett was intelligent and well-read, with a deep knowledge of plants and healing that went back generations in his family. "Why did you agree to marry Elena?" Marcus asked Garrett one day. "You could have just asked me to forgive your debt." Garrett thought about this question. "I was lonely," he said honestly. "I had been alone for years after my grandmother died. When you offered to send Elena instead of money, I thought maybe we could help each other." "Did you know she would become such a gifted healer?" "No, but I could see that she was intelligent and kind. I thought that was enough to build a good life together." Marcus realized that Garrett had seen Elena's value immediately, while her own father had been blind to it. As Marcus grew stronger, he began to help around the house and garden. It felt strange at first to do physical work with his hands, but he found that he enjoyed it. In the city, he had spent all his time thinking about money and business deals. Here, he could focus on simple, useful tasks. Elena watched her father work in the garden and saw a different side of him. Away from the pressure of his business and the opinions of other merchants, Marcus seemed more relaxed and genuine. "Father," Elena said one day as they worked together planting herbs, "what will you do when you go back to the city?" Marcus stopped working and looked at his daughter. "I do not know if I want to go back to the city." "What do you mean?" "My life there seems empty now. All I did was worry about money and what people thought of me. Here I feel like I am doing something useful." Elena was surprised by this. "But your business? My business partner, Thomas, can handle the business. He has been doing most of the work anyway while I was sick." Marcus had been thinking about this for days. Watching Elena help people and seeing how happy she was had made him question everything about his old life. "Elena, would you let me stay here longer? I want to learn more about healing and help you with your work." Elena looked at her father with surprise. "You want to become a healer? I want to do something that matters. I want to help people instead of just making money from them." Elena thought about this carefully. Part of her was happy that her father wanted to change his life, but part of her was worried about whether he really meant it. "Father, this work is not easy. People depend on us to help them when they are very sick or scared. You cannot do it just because you are tired of your old life." "I understand that. I have watched you work, and I see how serious it is. But I think this is what I want to do with the rest of my life." Elena looked at Garrett, who nodded encouragingly. "All right, Father, you can stay and learn, but you will have to work hard and prove that you are serious about this." Marcus smiled with real happiness for the first time in years. "Thank you, Elena," I will not disappoint you." Over the next few months, Marcus learned to help Elena and Garrett with their healing work. He was not as naturally gifted as Elena, but he was a good student and he worked hard. Marcus learned to grow and prepare healing plants. He learned to help Elena examine patients and prepare medicines. Most importantly, he learned to listen to sick people with compassion instead of judgment. The work changed Marcus in ways he had not expected. After years of thinking only about money and status, he found joy in helping others. Every person they healed made him feel more fulfilled than any business deal ever had. Elena watched her father change and began to forgive him completely for the pain he had caused her. She could see that he was genuinely sorry for how he had treated her and that he was working hard to become a better person. One day, a messenger came from the city with news for Marcus. His business partner Thomas had died suddenly, and Marcus needed to decide what to do with the business. "I could sell everything and stay here permanently," Marcus told Elena and Garrett. "The money would let me help you build a larger healing center where we could help even more people." Elena was excited by this idea. They had been thinking about building a place where sick people could stay while they recovered, instead of having to travel home immediately after treatment. "Are you sure this is what you want, Father? Once you sell the business, you cannot go back to your old life." Marcus looked around at the mountains and the garden and the home Elena had built with Garrett. "I am sure. This is my real life now." So, Marcus sold his business and his grand house in the city. With the money, they built a beautiful healing center next to Garrett's house. The center had rooms for patients who needed to stay for several days, a large kitchen for preparing healing foods, and gardens full of medicinal plants. Elena became the head healer at the center, known throughout the region as the Mountain Angel. People came from hundreds of miles away to seek her help, and she rarely failed to heal them. Garrett managed the gardens and prepared medicines, using the knowledge his grandmother had passed down to him. He also trained other young people who wanted to learn healing arts. Marcus worked as Elena's assistant, helping to examine patients and prepare treatments. He never became as skilled as Elena, but he was good at comforting scared patients and helping them feel safe. The healing center became famous as a place where people could find help for illnesses that no one else could cure. Elena's reputation spread so far that even kings and nobles came to seek her treatment. But Elena never forgot where she came from or how she had found her calling. She always remembered the scared, unwanted girl who had arrived in the mountains, thinking her life was over. Now, 5 years after leaving her father's house, Elena was one of the most respected healers in the land. She had saved hundreds of lives and trained dozens of other healers. She had built a loving marriage with Garrett and a meaningful relationship with her father. Most importantly, Elena had learned to value herself and believe in her own gifts. She was no longer the daughter who tried desperately to please a father who could not see her worth. She was Elena the healer, confident in her abilities and secure in the love of people who truly knew her. One evening, as Elena and Garrett sat by the fire in their home, Elena thought about how much her life had changed. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if my father had not sent me away?" Elena asked Garrett. Garrett took her hand and smiled. "No, because then I never would have met you, and you never would have become who you were meant to be." Elena leaned against Garrett's shoulder and looked out at the mountains that had become her home. "I used to think my father sending me away was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And now? Now I think it was the best thing. It brought me to you, and it brought me to my true calling." Elena realized that sometimes what seems like rejection or punishment can actually be the path to finding your real purpose in life. Her father had meant to get rid of a daughter he saw as a burden, but instead he had given her the greatest gift possible, the chance to become herself. As Elena fell asleep that night, she felt grateful for everything that had brought her to this moment. She was surrounded by love, doing work that mattered, living in a place where she belonged. The girl who had once felt worthless had become a woman who knew her own value. The daughter who had been traded away like property had become a healer whose reputation would last for generations. Elena had found her home, her purpose, and herself in the mountains. She had truly become the Mountain Angel, not because others called her that, but because she had learned to see the divine gifts within herself. And in the end, that transformation had healed not just the hundreds of patients who came to her for help, but also the broken relationship with her father and the wounded heart of the girl she used to be. Elena's story became legend in the mountains and beyond, the story of a rejected daughter who became a goddess of healing, proving that sometimes our greatest gifts are hidden in the places where others see only flaws.